good evening. And if you are watching us right now, it is because you cannot sleep. You tried. You lay in the dark. You closed your eyes. And nothing came. No drowsiness. No drift. Just a strange, humming wakefulness that sits behind your eyes like a second sun. We are receiving confirmation at this hour that this experience is not isolated to you, not isolated to your neighborhood, not isolated to your city. What began as an anomalous pattern of reported sleeplessness approximately 3 hours ago has now expanded into what emergency health authorities in no fewer than 14 countries are calling an unprecedented neurological event. We do not yet have a name for this. Scientists are not yet in agreement on a cause. What we do know is this. Across the globe, human beings are not sleeping. They are awake, all of them, and they are afraid. I'm Alex Mercer.
And I'm Sierra Lane. We want you to know that we are going to stay right here with you through all of it for as long as it takes. Because if there is one thing that has defined the last 3 hours since our emergency broadcast began, it is the sound of people reaching out. The calls, the messages, the letters flooding our inbox. People from Sao Paulo, from Nairobi, from Seoul, from Oslo, every single one of them saying some version of the same thing. I can't sleep, and I don't know why, and I needed to hear another voice. We are that voice tonight. We are not going anywhere. And we want to start by acknowledging something very simple and very human. You are scared. That is not weakness. That is a completely rational response to something that has never happened before.
To bring our viewers up to the current timeline, at approximately 9:17 in the evening, Eastern Standard Time, Channel X began receiving an unusual volume of viewer reports describing an inability to fall asleep. Within 40 minutes, that volume had tripled. By 10 o'clock, we were receiving corroborating reports from affiliate stations in London, Paris, Mumbai, and Tokyo, all describing the same phenomenon. Sleep clinics in Berlin and Stockholm reported that every single patient in their overnight observation wards had simultaneously become alert. Patients who had been sedated, patients who suffered from narcolepsy, patients who were in the early stages of natural sleep cycles. All of them. Awake. At 10:42, the World Health Organization issued its first preliminary alert, describing what they termed a global disruption of standard circadian neurological function. We are now 3 hours and 11 minutes into this broadcast, and the WHO has since upgraded that alert to its highest emergency tier.
We have been reading your messages on air tonight, and we want to continue doing that, because your voices matter and because the experience you are living through is the story. A viewer named Claudette from Lyon, France writes, I put my 3 children to bed at 8 o'clock as I always do. At 9, I checked on them, and they were lying perfectly still with their eyes wide open. My youngest is 4 years old. She looked at me and said, Mama, my head won't go quiet. I don't know what to do. I am holding her right now as I watch you. Claudette, we are holding you too. And we want you to know that hospitals and pediatric centers in Lyon and across France are currently staffed on emergency protocols. Your children are not alone. No child is alone tonight.
On the infrastructure front, we are beginning to see the first cascading failures that come with the complete absence of human sleep. The port of Rotterdam, which is the largest commercial port in Europe, has suspended all automated crane operations after 17 dock workers operating manual override systems reported cognitive disorientation. Not fatigue in the traditional sense, but a kind of overstimulated mental static that is making fine motor coordination unreliable. Rotterdam handles approximately 467 million tons of cargo annually. Its suspension, even for hours, creates ripple effects across supply chains that stretch from the Netherlands into Germany, Belgium, Poland, and beyond. Similarly, Frankfurt Airport has grounded all domestic flights following an incident in which an air traffic controller reported visual anomalies. Not hallucinations precisely, but a kind of brightness at the edges of perception that made reading radar screens difficult. Frankfurt handled over 60 million passengers last year. Its grounding is not a small event.
We want to take a moment to talk about what is happening on the streets of major cities right now, because the images coming in are striking. In Tokyo, which is currently in early morning hours, the streets that would normally be completely empty are instead filled with people. Not panicked, not rioting, just walking. Slowly, quietly, in what witnesses are describing as a kind of collective restlessness. A journalist on the ground in Shibuya writes that the famous Scramble Crossing, which is typically empty at this hour, is instead full of people who simply needed to move. In Cairo, mosques that would not open until dawn have opened their doors to people who knocked and asked for somewhere to sit. In Buenos Aires, a neighborhood WhatsApp group that normally shares cat photos and restaurant recommendations has turned into a citywide coordination channel, with residents checking on elderly neighbors and offering to sit with families who are frightened.
We have our first confirmed casualty figures coming in, and I want to present them carefully because they are early and they are incomplete. The number we can confirm at this hour is 43 deaths globally, directly attributed to what health authorities are now calling the wakefulness event. The majority of these deaths are infrastructural in nature, road accidents caused by drivers who, despite not being asleep, were experiencing what neurologists are calling overstimulation dissociation, a state in which the brain, deprived of its normal sleep cycle, begins misfiring sensory processing in ways that mimic certain aspects of extreme intoxication. There have been 7 such fatal accidents confirmed in the United States alone, on highways in Texas, Georgia, and Ohio. There are also 3 confirmed deaths in hospitals in Jakarta, Indonesia, where patients on life support experienced equipment failures when the staff managing their systems became cognitively impaired in the same way. We extend our deepest condolences to every family affected.
5 hours in now, and we are hearing from first responders, and I want you to hear what they are saying because these are the people who run toward the hard things even when the hard things have no name. A paramedic in Chicago who asked us only to call her Maria sent us a voice note that we have transcribed. She says, "I have been on shift for 9 hours. I should have gone home 2 hours ago, but none of us can sleep anyway, so we stayed." We are handling more calls than a normal night, but not the kind you expect. It's not violence, it's not crime. It's mostly people calling because they are alone and frightened and their chest is tight. We are driving to apartments and sitting with people and telling them to breathe. That is what tonight is. I just wanted someone to know that we are here. Maria, we know. The whole world knows.
I want to address the scientific dimension of what we are experiencing, because our viewers deserve clarity on the mechanism as best it is currently understood. Dr. Yuna Sato of the Kyoto Institute of Neurological Sciences, in a statement released 40 minutes ago, described the phenomenon as follows, and I quote directly from her written statement. What we are observing appears to be a simultaneous suppression of adenosine receptor function across the global human population. Adenosine is the chemical that accumulates in the brain during waking hours and creates the sensation of sleepiness. Its suppression does not prevent the body from needing sleep. It prevents the body from feeling that it needs sleep. This is critically dangerous because the need is still there. The damage accumulates invisibly. What Dr. Sato is describing means this. People are not simply awake. They are being quietly harmed by a wakefulness they cannot feel the edges of. At the 6-hour mark, she warns, cognitive degradation will begin to manifest more visibly.
And we are already seeing that. We want to be honest with you. A viewer in Mumbai writes, "I am a school teacher. I had 52 children in my care this evening at an after-school program when this began. I have been keeping them calm, we have been singing, we have been drawing. But in the last 30 minutes, the younger ones have started crying without knowing why. They cannot explain it. They are just sitting on the floor and weeping quietly. I have run out of songs. To that teacher, you are extraordinary. You are doing the most important work on earth tonight, and we see you. For any family watching, singing is actually correct. Neurologists we have spoken to tonight say that auditory rhythm, music, humming, even the sound of a familiar voice reading aloud, can activate parts of the parasympathetic nervous system that ease the body toward rest, even if sleep itself remains out of reach. Keep talking to your children. Keep singing.
We are now 6 hours and 40 minutes into the wakefulness event. I want to update our casualty numbers, which have risen significantly. We are now reporting 172 confirmed deaths worldwide. This increase is steep, and it is driven primarily by two factors. First, industrial accidents. Manufacturing plants in Guangzhou, China, and Monterrey, Mexico, have reported equipment-related fatalities among workers who were present during automated process failures. When human operators experience the kind of cognitive disruption we have described, manual override systems become dangerous. Second, and more troubling, we are receiving reports from hospitals in Lagos, Nigeria, and Karachi, Pakistan, of what physicians are calling neurological distress cascades. Patients who were already in fragile neurological condition, including those recovering from strokes and traumatic brain injuries, appear to be responding catastrophically to the adenosine suppression. 14 deaths in Lagos alone are attributed to this cause. We are working to verify additional figures from Dhaka and Manila.
7 hours in, and I want to talk about what is happening to communities that are finding ways to hold each other up, because that is also the news tonight, and it deserves space alongside the hard numbers. In Medellin, Colombia, residents of the El Poblado neighborhood have opened every ground floor shop and cafe and left the lights on and the doors unlocked. No commerce, just space. People are sitting together at tables, strangers beside strangers, sharing food, sharing silence, sharing the simple fact of not being alone in the dark. A cafe owner named Hernan, who spoke to our affiliate in Bogota, said simply, "I don't know what is happening, but I know my neighbors are awake and I have coffee and chairs. That is enough for tonight." In Accra, Ghana, the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation has been playing continuous traditional music since midnight, and listeners have been calling in not to report news but simply to say they are listening. That station has become, in its quiet way, the heartbeat of a city that needs one.
Power grid instability is now a significant concern across 3 continents. We are tracking rolling outages that began approximately 2 hours ago. The northern Indian power grid, which serves states including Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, and West Bengal, collectively home to more than 400 million people, has experienced 3 partial failures in the last 90 minutes. The cause is not mechanical, it is human. Grid management requires constant human monitoring and micro-adjustment. With operators experiencing cognitive disruption, the fine-tuned calibration that keeps a grid stable degrades. Similar instability is being reported across the Iberian Peninsula, where both Spain and Portugal are managing grid fluctuations, and in the northeastern United States, where ISO New England has issued an emergency conservation notice asking all facilities to reduce power consumption immediately. We want to be direct with our viewers. If you are in a region experiencing unstable power, please charge your devices now while you can. Have a battery-powered radio accessible. Keep your phone charged.
9 hours into this broadcast. We are 9 hours in, and I want to acknowledge something that I think many of you are feeling. You are tired. Not in the way you feel it in your muscles, not in the way you feel it behind your eyes. You're tired in a deeper place, in the part of you that handles everything, that carries everything, that usually gets a chance to set it down for 8 hours in the dark and just be still. That part of you is exhausted tonight, and it has nowhere to go. A viewer named James from Edinburgh writes, I am 67 years old. I have lived through a lot, but I have never experienced anything that felt like this. Like the world forgot how to stop. Like someone pressed a button and turned off the off switch. I keep going to my bed and lying there and I feel completely fine and I want to scream. James, what you are describing is the most universal human experience on Earth tonight, and you put it more precisely than anyone I have heard.
We have an official statement to share from the Office of the United Nations Secretary General, released within the last 20 minutes. I will read it in full. The United Nations calls upon all member states to activate emergency medical and civil defense protocols immediately. The event currently affecting the global human population constitutes an unprecedented public health emergency. All WHO emergency stockpiles of neurological support medication are being mobilized. Member states are urged to prioritize the protection of critical infrastructure operators, medical personnel, and individuals with pre-existing neurological vulnerabilities. The Security Council will convene an emergency session within the hour. The Secretary General urges calm, cooperation, and the immediate suspension of all non-essential commercial operations globally. That is the complete statement. To contextualize its significance, the UN has never in its history issued a statement of this scope. The language here is extraordinary. The phrase, suspension of all non-essential commercial operations globally, is, to our knowledge, unprecedented.
11 hours. We are 11 hours into this, and I want to talk about hospitals because they are the places where this crisis is hitting hardest, and the people inside them deserve to be seen. The Charité Hospital in Berlin, one of Europe's largest and most respected medical centers, is currently operating on what its chief administrator described in a press briefing 40 minutes ago as a zero redundancy emergency footing. Every available staff member is present. None of them can sleep. The administrator noted that this is, paradoxically, both their greatest challenge and their only advantage. They have more people than a normal overnight shift, because no one went home. But cognitive degradation is now visibly affecting staff. Simple clerical tasks are taking longer. Nurses are double-checking medication doses 3 and 4 times. Not because they are careless, because their brains are misfiring the confirmation signals that normally accompany confident memory retrieval. This is what sleep deprivation at 11 hours looks like in a medical setting. It is terrifying, and it is being managed by people who are doing their absolute best.
Our casualty numbers have risen again, and I must share them with you. We are now at confirmed 611 deaths worldwide. The increase over the past 2 hours has been driven primarily by a category we did not anticipate in our early reporting, what emergency coordinators are calling secondary collapse events. As cognitive function degrades at the population level, the systems that humans maintain through constant vigilance begin to fail in ways that are hard to predict. A dam monitoring facility in the Sichuan province of China was managing a routine high water alert when its 4-person overnight crew simultaneously lost the capacity for coordinated decision-making. The resulting delayed response to a sluice gate malfunction caused a controlled overflow that flooded 3 villages downstream. 41 deaths are confirmed from that event alone. A train derailment outside Warsaw, Poland, caused when a signal operator missed a switching queue, has resulted in 19 confirmed deaths and over 80 injuries. These are not the deaths of people who gave up. They are the deaths of people whose minds were taken from them without warning.
We received a message 30 minutes ago from a man named Tariku in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, and I have been waiting for the right moment to read it because I think it is important. He writes, I work at a community radio station. We have been broadcasting continuously since this began. We play music, we read letters from listeners, we take calls from people who are frightened. Tonight, a woman called who lives alone and who told us she had not spoken to another human being in 2 days before this happened. Not because of the wakefulness event, but because loneliness was already her life. She said that tonight, for the first time in a long time, she felt like the world was with her. That all of us being awake meant she was not the only one awake. I don't know what to make of that, but I thought you should know. Tariku, we know, and we are thinking about that woman, and about everyone tonight for whom this strange and terrible event has also been, in some small way, a reminder that they are not as invisible as they feared.
13 hours into the event. It is now mid-morning in Tokyo, late morning in Seoul, early afternoon in parts of Australia. The Asian and Pacific regions have now been awake, without exception, for the longest continuous period of any population on Earth. Japanese health authorities are reporting what they are describing as Phase 2 cognitive effects, a distinction from the early overstimulation of the first 6 hours. Phase 2 is characterized by emotional dysregulation. People who were calm in the early hours of the event are now experiencing episodes of intense, unprovoked weeping, or conversely, episodes of what clinicians call flat affect, a blunted emotional response that can look, from the outside, like eerie calm. A correspondent in Osaka reports that a group of approximately 200 people gathered spontaneously in Namba Park and simply sat together in silence for 4 hours. No phones, no talking, just proximity. As a neurological coping mechanism, this is, according to sources I have spoken to, actually quite sound.
14 hours. I want to read you an official statement, not from a government or a health authority, but from an unexpected source. The International Federation of Air Traffic Controllers, representing more than 50,000 controllers in 150 countries, has issued the following collective statement. As of this hour, the global air traffic control network is operating at 12% of standard capacity. We are not abandoning our posts. We are managing the safest possible skeleton framework for emergency and medical flights only. We made this decision collectively, without instruction from governments, because we understood before the governments did that a tired controller is more dangerous than an empty sky. We ask for the world's understanding. We are still here. We are just choosing carefully what we guide. I want to say that again. 50,000 professionals in 150 countries made a collective ethical decision in real time, without being told to, because they understood the stakes. That is one of the most remarkable things I have ever read into a microphone.
Power grid failures have now escalated to full outages in several major regions. As of 30 minutes ago, the entire national grid of Pakistan has gone offline, affecting approximately 220 million people. The Pakistani government has confirmed this and has deployed military units to maintain security around hospitals, which are running on emergency generators. Cairo has experienced a rolling blackout that has affected roughly 60% of the city. Rome lost power to its historic center 2 hours ago and has not restored it. In North America, the state of California has implemented mandatory load shedding, rolling blackouts affecting roughly 40% of the state at any given time, in order to prevent a catastrophic full-state grid failure. The California governor's office confirmed this in a briefing 90 minutes ago, stating, and I quote, "We are managing a system that was designed for human operators who rest. Those operators are no longer resting. We are doing everything possible to prevent a failure that we cannot come back from quickly."
16 hours. We want to share something that came in from a viewer in Reykjavik, Iceland. Iceland is a small country, fewer than 400,000 people, and it has, by all accounts we have received, done something remarkable in the last 4 hours. Because Iceland is small enough that government and community overlap in ways that larger nations cannot replicate, The country's response has been almost entirely community-driven. Neighborhood councils convened within hours. Geothermal energy, which Iceland uses for the vast majority of its power, has not wavered. It requires minimal human management. Fishing boats have stayed in harbor by collective agreement. The national broadcaster has been playing a continuous loop of Icelandic folk songs and live readings of the Icelandic sagas, ancient stories about people surviving impossible things. A listener from Reykjavik named Sigridur writes, "We are all sitting in our kitchens with candles and the radio on. It is like a very long night that has gone strange, but we are together and we are not afraid. Iceland has survived worse." Sigridur, I believe you.
I must now report updated casualty figures, and I want to give them to you with the full weight they deserve. At the 16-hour mark of the wakefulness event, confirmed global deaths stand at 4,218. This number represents an acceleration that we must explain clearly. The dominant cause of death in the past 3 hours is no longer accidents. It is medical crisis. Individuals with pre-existing cardiac conditions are experiencing acute cardiac events at a rate that emergency physicians in multiple countries are describing as without precedent. Sleep deprivation at the 16-hour mark in a person with compromised cardiovascular function creates conditions that can trigger infarction. This is established medical science. What is not established is having it happen to a statistically significant fraction of the global population simultaneously. Hospitals in Sao Paulo, Brazil, are reporting that their cardiac units are overwhelmed to the point where triage decisions are being made that physicians have described in several communications as agonizing.
17 hours. A message from Dr. Amara Diallo, a cardiologist in Dakar, Senegal, who has been awake and working for 17 continuous hours. She writes, "I have not stopped. None of us have stopped. My hands are steady. My mind is clear enough. But I want someone to record this so it is not lost. Tonight, I held the hand of a man named Umar, who is 73 years old, and who told me as I sat beside him that he had lived a very good life and that he was not afraid. He asked me to tell his grandchildren that he loved them. He said it in Wolof, and then he said it in French so I would be sure to understand. He died 20 minutes later. His grandchildren live in Marseille. I do not have their contact information. If anyone in Marseille is watching and knows a family named Diallo Mbaye, please reach them tonight." We are broadcasting that name now, Diallo Mbaye, from Dakar. If you're watching from Marseille and you know this family, please contact us.
19 hours into the wakefulness event. I want to address the question that we have been receiving most consistently from our viewers, and that question is, when does this end? I want to answer that honestly, which means acknowledging what we do not know before telling you what we do. We do not know the cause. We do not know, therefore, when the cause will be reversed or resolved. What we do know comes from the WHO's most recent briefing, released 8 minutes ago, which stated that research teams at the Karolinska Institute in Stockholm and at Johns Hopkins University in Baltimore have independently identified an anomalous electromagnetic pattern in the atmosphere, a low-frequency pulse in the 7 to 8 Hertz range, that appears to correspond in its global distribution to the areas most affected by adenosine suppression. They are calling this a resonance hypothesis. They are not yet calling it a cause, but they are saying that if it is a cause, and if it can be interrupted, it may be possible to reverse the effect. This is the most specific scientific lead we have had in 19 hours.
20 hours. I have been on this anchor desk for 20 hours alongside Alex, and I want to be honest with you about what that feels like, because I think you deserve honesty from us right now. I am not tired. I should be. Normally, after 20 hours, I would be barely able to form sentences. Instead, I feel a kind of relentless, hollow alertness, like a fluorescent light that cannot be switched off. My eyes are dry, My hands are a little unsteady. When I read your messages, something happens in my chest that is harder to manage than it was 6 hours ago. The emotion sits closer to the surface. I am telling you this not to make this about me, but because I think many of you are experiencing exactly this, and I want to name it so you know it has a name. This is what 20 hours of enforced wakefulness feels like in a human body that was never designed for it. You are not broken. You are being pushed past a limit that should not exist.
21 hours. The resonance hypothesis has been upgraded. In a development that came through our science desk 12 minutes ago, the research teams in Stockholm and Baltimore have now been joined by a team at the University of Cape Town and a team at the Indian Institute of Technology in Bangalore, all working in parallel. Their coordinated finding, transmitted to the WHO 30 minutes ago, indicates that the electromagnetic pulse pattern they have identified originates from a specific atmospheric layer at approximately 42 kilometers altitude within the stratosphere and is being amplified and distributed globally by the ionosphere. This is consistent with certain known phenomena in atmospheric physics, including what are called Schumann resonances, natural electromagnetic resonances that occur in the cavity between the Earth's surface and the ionosphere. What these teams are proposing is that an unknown event has artificially amplified and distorted those resonances in a way that is interfering with human neurological chemistry. They have not identified the original cause of that amplification, but they have identified a potential countermeasure, a coordinated global broadcast of a specific counter-frequency that could, in theory, disrupt the amplification pattern.
22 hours. Governments around the world are mobilizing in response to the counter-frequency proposal, and I want to tell you what that looks like on the ground because it is extraordinary. Broadcasting authorities in every country with an active national radio infrastructure, which is nearly every country on Earth, are being contacted right now by a coordinating body operating out of Geneva. The proposal is to simultaneously broadcast a specific tone at a specific frequency across every available radio and television transmitter on the planet for a sustained period of approximately 40 minutes. The theory, still unproven, is that this global counter-broadcast could disrupt the atmospheric amplification of the damaging pulse and allow adenosine function to resume. It is an unprecedented use of the global communications infrastructure. It has never been attempted. It may not work. But at 22 hours into the wakefulness event, with confirmed deaths now approaching 12,000 globally, it is the only active intervention on the table, and governments are choosing to try it.
Confirmed deaths at the 22-hour mark stand at 11,944. I want to be precise. 11,944 confirmed deaths. The majority are now in the category of medical crisis, cardiac events, neurological cascades in vulnerable populations, and what physicians are now calling exhaustion psychosis in individuals who had pre-existing psychiatric vulnerabilities. Infrastructure failures continue to compound the picture. A hospital generator failure in Dhaka resulted in 47 deaths in the past 2 hours alone. Road infrastructure in most major cities is essentially non-functional, not because roads are destroyed, but because cognitive impairment has made driving categorically dangerous, and most governments have now issued formal prohibitions on non-emergency vehicle movement. The global economy, by any measurable standard, has ceased to function. Stock markets that were open have suspended trading. Ports are quiet. Factories are silent. The world has stopped in a way it has never stopped before.
23 hours. I want to read one final viewer message before we reach the moment we have all been waiting for. This comes from a man named Otto in Helsinki, Finland. He writes, I am a retired radio engineer. I am 81 years old. When I was a boy, my grandfather told me about the war years, nights when everyone was afraid and no one could sleep, and the only thing that helped was the radio. He said the radio felt alive in a way that nothing else did. A voice in the dark that meant someone was still there. I have been listening to you for 23 hours. I do not know if the counter frequency will work. I do not know if I will see tomorrow. But I want to tell you that you have done what radio is for. You have been a voice in the dark. That is enough. That is everything. Otto, thank you. That is everything.
We are now receiving confirmation that the global counter-frequency broadcast has been authorized. 112 countries have confirmed participation. Their national broadcast infrastructure, radio, television, emergency alert systems, will simultaneously emit the counter-frequency tone beginning in approximately 4 minutes. Channel X will participate in this broadcast. We will be silent during the 40-minute transmission period. What you will hear is a tone, a low, sustained hum at approximately 7.83 hertz, modulated in the specific pattern identified by the research consortium. It will not be pleasant. It will not sound like music. But if the science is correct, it will be the sound of the world trying to heal itself. We want to be clear. This is experimental. This has never been done. The researchers believe it will work. They cannot guarantee it. We are going to try.
Before we go silent, I want to say a few things. To every parent who kept their child calm tonight, you did it. To every doctor and nurse and paramedic who stayed at their post for 23 hours with no sleep and no guarantee of relief, you are the best of us. To every community that opened its doors and its kitchens and its radio stations and its cafes and its mosques and its parks and said, come in, you don't have to be alone tonight. You remembered what matters. To Claudette in Lyon, and Maria in Chicago, and Tariku in Addis Ababa, and Sigridur in Reykjavik, and Dr. Diallo in Dakar, and Otto in Helsinki, and James in Edinburgh, and every one of you who wrote to us and called us and held the line with us. We see you. We have always seen you. We are going silent now, but we are still here. We are all still here. That matters more than you know.
The broadcast begins in 30 seconds. Stay where you are. Hold on to the people near you. Hold on to the voice in your radio if there is no one near you. This is Channel X. We will be back.
It is now 24 hours since this began. We have been here for all of it. So have you. And I want to close with something simple. Go to sleep, please. Your bed is waiting. The dark is safe. The world is quiet. We will be here in the morning and every morning after that because that is what we do. We stay on the air so you always have somewhere to turn when the night gets strange. But tonight the night is not strange anymore. Tonight the night is just the night. Pull your blankets up, close your eyes. You've earned it. The whole world has earned it. From Alex Mercer and from me, Sierra Lane, this has been Channel X Breaking News. Good night. Sleep well. We'll see you on the other side.
Good night.